Alright, what is up everybody? We are back on ICC. Going to be playing another 15-minute game against Grann with from Norway, or at least with the Norwegian flag. So let's see how it goes. These 15-minute games are pretty fun. So we have the Royal Lopez on the board. Let's go for my typical modern Steinitz. It's pretty fun to play. Alright. C3, okay. You can play C3 or castles there, usually transposing into each other. Alright. Okay. Yep. Rook E1. Alright, G6, go for the fianchetto, which usually indicates the modern Steinitz. Okay, D4. So I can play bishop G7 or B5. B5 is the more solid option, so let's go for that. And then bishop G7 and long castles, and we'll go from there. Okay, white obviously
friend departed.
Considering the retreats, bishop B3 or bishop C2. Bishop B3 is played a bit more, but bishop C2
server announcement.
Bishop C2 is of course more in the Royal Lopez style. Okay, so white going into a think tank, probably not very familiar with this opening, hopefully at least. So let's see. Okay. So, who is this guy? Wow, 11,000 15-minute games. That's quite a bit. Anyway, okay, bishop E3 played. Bishop G7 normal. What would be really nice is if white played D5 here. That's always a move that black really likes, closing the center up and making F5 much more easier to play because there's less to calculate, especially in the closed center. Okay, so A3, that's a bit abnormal. I've never really seen that before. Usually white goes for A4 if you're going to touch the A pawn. Okay, but he's obviously making sure this bishop will stay on the diagonal here. But I'll just castle. Okay. Yeah, I kind of consider A3 a loss of tempo because I'm never going to play knight A5, or I'm not going for C5. That's not the break I'm looking for. It's F5. So white really doesn't need to save tempo, or doesn't really need to make room for the bishop. Okay, knight D2. So I have a choice here. I can play king H8, knight H5, queen E8. I really like these queen E8 moves because they're kind of cheeky. Okay. All right, maybe we could just follow up with queen E8. Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe king H8 is a bit more flexible. But, yeah, this should be good enough. So I'm expecting knight F1. And then I'll play probably knight H5 there. Okay. Okay, bishop A2. It's a bit mysterious.
Friend arrived.
It's a bit mysterious to me. Okay. What is the bishop doing on A2? Okay. I'll just get my king off that diagonal, freeing my F pawn. getting out of that pin. Alright. So, knight f1 again, I'm expecting, with the normal Roy Lopez plan of knight e3 or knight g3, followed up with, okay, b4. This is very new. Don't really get it. Seems like a very strange move to me, making c3 a bit weak, and yeah, I really don't get it. Maybe white is trying to prepare c4 in some way, but the d pawn is very weak. Okay. But alright, knight h5 to f4, also opening up the scope of my bishop on g7. Seems very nice. Alright, so let's go for it. So knight f4, and now of course f5 is on the agenda. Yeah, I don't really get white's setup. Usually white is going after the center here with knight f1 to e3, something along those lines. Okay, so what is white going to do here? Rook b1 doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe white can try d5 followed by c4, something like that, but yeah, it's very hard to close the center and make f5 much more pleasant for me. d5, knight e7, c4 maybe, trying to attack on the queen side, which is normally what white should do, press in the center and on the queen side, but very abnormal setup here. Okay, so at the moment I'm threatening the pawn, yeah, that's what I expected. Okay, not a lot to consider here. Have to drop back. My queen and bishop work really well together to strengthen control of a4, and yeah, now there's never going to be a knight on d5, and f5 of course gains in strength. So yeah. Okay, f5 now, or knight f4. Knight f4 probably met by g3, I'd assume. It's probably just f5. Bishop b2 is also really strange because the center is really locked, and the a2 bishop and the b2 bishop, they have like no scope at all. Okay, neither do mine, but maybe a bit more potential. Alright, so f5, my queen on e8 indirectly covers the knight on h5, so f5 takes, knight takes e5. That common tactic isn't possible because my queen's guarding the knight. So f5 should be perfectly okay. We can briefly look at other options, but should be good. Alright, let's go for it. f5. Alright. Yeah, this is almost a dream position for the modern Steinitz. You have the queen side almost locked down. It's very hard to play a4. c4 is probably the only idea to try to get some play going on the c-file, but I've already gotten f5 in, and the center is completely closed, so it should be yeah, very straightforward. Push all the pawns near the king and get something going. Okay, yeah, that's definitely an idea. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Actually have a really nice move here with knight f4, which covers the e6 square, as well as throwing knight d3, which would fork the bishop on b2 and the rook on e1. So yeah, with this threat, anything better? Obviously, his idea is to jump into e6. Um, I mean, even that is not so bad. I mean, something like f4 and knight e6. I can always just play rook f7 at the very least. But he does have the c7 pawn, so maybe not. Okay. So, probably just knight here. Seems very normal. Okay, let's go for it. He might play knight e6 anyway. But then I can take with the knight and play bishop c6. Putting more pressure on the long diagonal in the center. Yeah, that should be very pleasant. I have a very nice pawn chain. Very nice pawn setup, generally. Very fluent. Okay, rook e3, yeah. So h6 now, we can consider. Okay, h6, knight e6, knight takes e6, d takes e6, bishop c6. If he takes on f5, I can take with the knight or the pawn. Okay, this is the only move, really. I should just do it. Okay, h6, there's no rook h3, so let's just play it. Okay. Yep. Alright. Okay, so we reached this setup. It's very reminiscent of a King's Indian, with white quite often going knight g5 to e6, and sometimes that pawn is just a goner, but okay, you've provoked some weaknesses on the king's side. There's actually a lot of ideas here. I could play f4 and g5, go for a very closed position on the king's side, or I can just try to round up that e6 pawn. Either way. Yep. Okay. That's interesting. Why can't I take that? Knight takes d5 takes, bishop takes d5. I don't see the tactic. Very, very strange. Very, very strange indeed. Okay. Knight takes d5. Why not? Weird. I don't see any decent knight discoveries. Knight takes d5, e takes d5, bishop takes d5. Any good knight discoveries? My bishop's just completely locking out the knight. So, yeah. I don't get it. I think we could just take it. Alright. Yeah, there's nothing here, right? Famous last words, but we can take it. Let's do it. Alright. So now the e6 pawn is really weak and is probably going to drop off, and I have the bishop pair and a very fluent pawn chain, very fluent pawn formation, very not many weaknesses. The only real weakness is maybe the a6 and b5 pawns, but very hard to get at them. Yeah, dream pawn formation, right? No doubled pawns. Every single pawn. Yeah, no pawns have been really traded, so I still have all 8 pawns. That's kind of funny. Alright, so e6 is falling, and yeah, should be very simple. Okay, assuming I take the e6
Quite
pawn.
resigns.
Yeah, it's not very fun to play, but okay. Out of curiosity, after I take, um, Hmm. What to do? Let's say, yeah, it's very hard to find a move for white here. Hmm. I don't know. Let's say something. Let's say a4 maybe. Bishop takes e6, and then we have a trade. Let's just put this on the board as a sample line. How would I actually go about winning this, though? I mean, I'm just up a couple pawns. Probably not very pleasant anyways. I could play, mm, yeah, probably even just d5 and d4. Going for a touchdown with the pawns is good enough. Yeah, kind of a disaster in the opening for white. Yeah, c3 being one of the better lines. Okay. If I remember right, after c3, there's f5 with the siesta gambit here. But yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at that. So bishop d7, just the normal setup. Okay. Rook e1. So this is all very normal. b5. Yeah, I really don't like a3. If you're going to push the a-pawn, play a4 immediately. Then rook b8, like a common line a4, rook b8. And we have these trades. Okay, and then white's plan is, yeah, a bit simpler. He can try to play along the queen side, get his pieces out. Probably, even these ideas are possible. Oops, here. But, okay, that's just one idea. So yeah, a3 I don't get. Knight d2 is very normal, going for, these ideas, very typical Roy Lopez. I think, e3 to d5 is probably the best plan for white, objectively. But okay, I mean, it's very dynamic. There's a lot of ideas there. Queen e8. Maybe I could have also considered king h8 here, but okay, it's a matter of taste. Bishop a2 and b4. I really don't like this setup. I think white needs to get his pieces to optimal squares. You know, I think right here is the critical moment, going for this maneuver. Very yeah, it's very annoying for black to face this quite often. I'd probably have to play rook d8. I think the critical point being that if I ever go knight h5, then knight d5, and my c7 pawn is a bit loose and it's very uncomfortable. Okay, and white's probably slightly better there and objectively, but okay. We had b4, knight h5. Okay, and black's play is fairly straightforward. d5. Okay, again I think knight f1 to e3 is the right idea, but okay, obviously this wasn't on the agenda. Yeah. And after d5, it's just much easier to play f5 here, which is what black wants, to get a King's Indian breakthrough. And, yeah, I think the only idea is probably, yeah, maybe bishop a2 is right, but maybe with a different idea, rook c1, and then preparing c4, trying to open up the c-file, and, yeah, play along there. But even then, I'm really quick on the king's side, so... But even then, that is probably objectively better. Knight g5 is really typical, but I don't know. I think this knight f4 to d3 idea is very strong. Okay, and then after some moves, yeah, okay. This is not totally clear. Maybe white should take on f5 here, or f3 even. I think giving up the d5 square is just, yeah, maybe a bit dubious. But, okay. Obviously, bishop d5 just being a blunder. Blunder missing. I could just take it, and, okay, all the pawns are falling off the board, and it's a pretty simple win from there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll be back with future stuff. See you around, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.